What is up, you guys? It's your favorite cutie, Mel, back again on my So Passionate with you guys yet another video. Today we're continuing our conversation about All About Love by Bell Hooks. We're on chapter 11, which is titled Loss. I hope you guys enjoy. If you guys are still with me in this series, please give this video a huge thumbs up. Let me know that you're liking it down in the comments so I know if you guys want to continue. I kind of like the fact that we can grow and learn together on this channel through like sharing these books and stuff, and I can give you guys suggestions, let you guys know what I'm reading. We can read together, we can talk about the chapters, what we got out of it, etc. So I'm hoping that you guys really like this series so we can continue to do it. It really gives me a sense of accountability to continue to read when normally I might take maybe even like a month break from reading because I'm just so into everything. It keeps me grounded, it keeps me reading like I want to and I intend to. So let's hop into it. Loss. Loving into life and death. You have to trust that every friendship has no end, that a communion of saints exists among all of those living and dead who have truly loved God and one another. You know from experience how real this is. Those you have deeply loved and who have died live on in you, not just as memories, but as real presences. Henry Nguyen. So that's how she starts it off. You guys know she starts off with a quote pretty much to start off every single chapter, and I feel that that's true. My grandma, my grandmother, my granny, I was very close to her, and still to this day, I can feel her presence, and I know that she's around, especially when I experience certain things or when I'm in certain stores that remind me of her, or just anything that reminds me of her. I just am reminded that she's within me, she's here, and I love that. I love how when you truly love someone, you could still feel their presence even after, you know. So let's get started. She starts by saying, love makes us feel more alive. Living in a state of lovelessness, we feel we might as well be dead. Everything within us is silent and still. We are unmoved. Soul murderer is the term psychoanalysts use to describe the state of living death. It echoes the biblical declaration that anyone who does not know love is still in death. Cultures of domination court death, hence the ongoing fascination with violence, the false instinct that it is natural for the strong to prey upon the weak, for the more powerful to prey upon the powerless. So basically, it's pretty self-explanatory. She's just talking about like if you don't know love or you don't have love in your life, whether it's a love for something that you're doing in life, whether it's a love for someone, somebody, someone to care for, people who care for you, it can feel like you might as well not even be here because love is like the essence of true life. It's what we're really here for. So living with lovelessness is not a problem we openly and readily complain about. Yet, the reality that we will all die generates tremendous concern, fear, and worry. It may very well be that the worship of death, indicated by the constant spectacles of dying we watch on television screens daily, is one way our culture tries to still that fear, to conquer it, to make us comfortable. So I actually was on Twitter, and there was this very moving piece. It's making me feel emotional just thinking about it. It was this woman who basically, she was crying out on TikTok talking about how she hadn't had a hug in so long, like, and she hadn't had physical touch, like, and she hadn't, just been hugged by someone that truly loves her. And she goes on to talk about how, yes, you could go get a massage or whatever to get physical touch, but it's different than, being embraced by someone who really loves you, someone who truly cares about you. And I just found that to be so heartbreaking. It made me want to get more hugs, because you just never know who really is feeling like they don't have love in their lives, who's needing some sort of connection with someone else. So I've been giving out more hugs lately, and yeah, that's so brave, because she's right. A lot of people don't complain openly unless it's like in a joking way, like, oh, I haven't been with anybody in this long or whatever. But most people are not really honest and vulnerable when they do not feel love in their lives. And I think we should talk more about it, because when I opened up the comments, I wasn't sure to see if people were going to be like making fun of her or whatnot, but it actually touched a lot of people. And I think that in today's society, because we're not as connected, I think it's more common than more people would expect that people are feeling, like they're lacking love, even if it is just physical touch, Let's see. This lock is like, it was behind my ear. It's like poofier than normal. Okay, but anyway. And then she just talks about how we see death so much, like in TV or movies, and how we she basically goes on to talk about how we're in love with, death in a way, and less focused on loving life. Like, not focusing enough on being able to create beautiful life that's worth living in, like not focusing enough on like the creation of life and excitement in life, focusing so much on the end, like so let's just continue so it can explain better. For the most part, patriarchal perspectives have shaped religious teachings and practice. Recently, there has been a turning away from these teachings toward a creation grounded spirituality that is life affirming. Fox calls this the via positiva. Without the solid grounding in creation's powers, we become bored, violent people. We become necrophiliacs in love with death and the powers and principalities of death. We move away from this worship of death by challenging patriarchy, creating space, creating peace, working for justice, and embracing a love ethic. It is deeply anxiety. Okay, so then she goes on to talk about how, like, she thinks that the reason why so many people like put death into like movies and stuff is to maybe like ease the fear around the unknown about death. But then she goes on to talk about how it's actually very like anxiety inducing, which can be seen in why, like, as communities, we could be so afraid of each other, like, afraid that someone's going to end our life, afraid that someone is going to try to harm us, afraid that, the people around us don't mean us well, and it causes us to be less loving because most of the time we're looking over our shoulder like, oh, what is this person doing? So then she goes on to share an example about a person who needed help, and basically ran up to a doorstep, and the person at the home ended up shooting the person because they saw that person as a threat, even though they just needed help. And then she goes on to talk about how, like, in those kind of instances, people tend to empathize with the homeowner because we're so disconnected from each other that, and so, like, anxious that someone's coming to harm us or to take our things and, take our lives, that we're not able to just be compassionate people and like be there for one another if it's like a stranger or it feels threatening in any way, or so I just felt that was interesting. So let's see, I'll just go ahead and read that passage since I talked about it. This is an everyday example of madness. The person who is really the threat here is the homeowner, who has been so well socialized by thinking of white supremacy, of capitalism, of patriarchy, that he can no longer respond rationally. White supremacy has taught him that all people of color are threats, irrespective of their behavior. Capitalism has taught them that at all costs his property can and must be protected. Patriarchy has taught him that his masculinity has to be proved by the willingness to conquer fear through aggression, that it would be unmanly to ask questions before taking action. Mass media then brings us the news on the news peak manner that sounds almost jocular and celebratory, as though no tragedy has happened, as though the sacrifice of a young life was necessary to uphold property values and white patriarchal honor. Viewers are encouraged to feel empathy for the white male homeowner who made a mistake. The fact that this mistake led to the violent death of another young man does not register. The narrative is worded in a manner that encourages viewers to identify with the one who made the mistake by doing what we are led to feel we might all do to protect our property at all costs from the sense of the perceived threat. This is what the worship of death looks like. All the worship of death we see on our television screens, all the death we witness daily, does not prepare us in any way to facing dying with awareness, clarity, or peace of mind. When worship of death is rooted in fear, it does not enable us to live fully or well. If we become obsessed with the idea of death hiding and waiting for us to ambush us, we are not making death more real, but life less real. Yeah, so that's what I was trying to get at. Like, let me just read that again. If we become obsessed with the idea of death hiding and waiting for us in ambush, we are not making death more real, but life less real. Because we're afraid to live life to our fullest when we're constantly feeling like there's a threat at every single corner. If someone knows that there's an active shooter in their area, they're not going to go out and have a celebration with their family in the park because they're afraid, right? They feel the need to withdraw from the space. So it's kind of like the same thing, even though that's kind of like a broad and maybe not the best example, but it's just like when you know that there's a threat, or if you feel that there's a threat at every single turn and at any moment someone can take your life, you're not able to let loose. You're not able to enjoy life. It's not life affirming. You start to do less in life because you're so worried and anxious and concerned that everything is a threat to you instead of being able to enjoy life. And I just felt like that was so important. Like, I never really thought about that, but it's really true. It does stop you from living life if you are subconsciously always being fed these messages of death and glorifying death, and it doesn't put us at ease. It does make us more conscious, and just seeing all the things that could go wrong, period, is going to make you more of a cautious person. And being cautious is fine, but being overly cautious and overly afraid really holds us back. Okay. To live fully, we would need to let go of our fear of dying. That fear can only be addressed by the love of living. So basically she says all that to say that we need to focus more on like life affirming things, the joy of living, all the good things that can happen in life, all the things that we love about life, all the possibilities that lie in life. We need to focus more on that instead of the end, because while we're here, we don't want to be focused so much on the end that we're not actually enjoying the middle, which is us being here, us existing, us waking up with the opportunity to do whatever with our lives. Needs lemon. Okay. So I'm gonna move on to from that, because she just goes on more about that in depth. So then she goes on to talk about grief. Sometimes it amazes me to know intuitively that grieving are all around us, yet we do not see any overt signs of their anguished spirits. We are taught to feel shame about grief that lingers. Like a stain on our clothes, it marks us flawed and perfect. To cling to grief, to desire its expression, is to be out of sync with modern life, where the hip do not get bogged down in the morning. Love knows no shame. To be loving is to be open to grief, to be touched by sorrow, even sorrow that is unending. The way we grieve is informed by whether we know love. Since loving lets us let go of so much fear, it also guides our grief. When we lose someone we love, we can grieve without shame. Given that commitment is an important aspect of love. We who love know we must sustain ties in life and death. Our mourning, our letting ourselves grieve over the loss of a loved one is an expression of our commitment, a form of communication and communion. So basically, you can't know love without grief at one point, because not all love that comes in our life is going to stay in our life, even if that person doesn't die. But even if they did, if you had the love of a lifetime where you stay with one person all your life, and at one point someone's going to be grieving a death, because we don't get to live forever. So we do in spirit, but in our bodies and in our physical form we don't get to live forever. So I think love and grief are kind of one and the same, because it's like if you do let yourself love someone and allow your heart to be open and allow yourself to, you know, love that person without fear, at one point or another, there is going to be grief attached to it. There's going to be loss attached to it. And it's just going to be hard times in general. So to know love is to know that it isn't going to always be perfect. And sometimes we will lose it. But I think it's still worth it to go ahead and love, because it just makes our lives so much more enriched. In a culture like ours, where few of us seek to know perfect love, grief is often overshadowed by regret. We regret things left unsaid, things left unreconciled. I take time to think about whether I'll be at peace knowing that I left someone without saying what's in my heart, that I left with harsh words. The only way to live that life where, as Edith Piaf sings, we regret nothing, is by awakening to an awareness of the value of livelihood and right action. Understanding that death is always with us and can serve as a faithful reminder that the time to do what we feel called to do is always now, and not in some distant, unimagined future. To return to the present is to be in contact with life. Life can be found only in the present moment, because the past no longer is and the future has not come yet. So yeah, basically, beautifully said. I think that it's self-explanatory what's being expressed here. Basically, live in a way where you are fully present as much as possible with the love that you have in your life, and don't if you want to say something, say something. Like, I'm a big advocate of this, and sometimes I feel foolish for doing this, like especially if I have like a breakup or something. Like, I will express myself until I can't express myself anymore. So if that means that I want to tell someone that I care about them, that I love them, that whatever it is, like, even if after we're done, I will always do it, because I just feel like that is a part of who I am. And I feel like when you really express your love to its fullest, even when it's ending, you can leave that relationship without regrets, because I know that I've said everything that I wanted to say. I know I've expressed all the love that I wanted to express. And no matter what happens, whether we see each other again, whether we don't, whether we pick up again, whether we don't, whether I ever hear from that person ever again, I know that on my end, I have said everything that I needed to say, and I don't have regrets about it in the end. And I think that's really what allows me to move on faster, because it's just like I don't harbor a lot of things or leave things unsaid. Like, even if people are mad at me, even if friends are mad at me, they don't want to talk to me anymore, I say everything I need to say. I express my full gratitude for whatever it is that we've done together in this life. And then when I move on, I have no regrets, because I didn't hold on to anything. I didn't harbor anything that was going to make me feel some type of way. Like, you know, it's just like after that, I could just focus on grieving and letting go of the situation, rather than being like, oh, I wish I would have said this. Because the truth is, you'll never know if you'll have that chance, you know. As they explain, like some unimagined future, you shouldn't take people for granted thinking that they're always going to be around, because anything can happen to anybody at any time, at any age. There is no, we love to imagine and think that we're invincible and that we'll know everybody and all our friends and family will be here for a long time with us. But the truth is, you don't know. So I try to be honest. I try to express myself, my love, whatever I need to say, even my discontent. I express it all. I let it all out, and then I move forward, so I don't have regrets. Let's see. Living in a culture that always encourages us to plan for the future is no easy task to develop the capacity to be here now. When we live fully in the present, we acknowledge that death is always with us, and not just there at the moment when we breathe our last breath. We are not devastated by events over which we have no control. Losing a job, rejection by someone we hope to connect with, the loss of a longtime friend or companion. Everything we see can only be found in the present. That to abandon the present in order to look for things in the future is to throw away the substance and hold on to the shadow. That's so good. To be here now does not mean that we do not make plans, but that we learn to give the making of future plans only a small amount of energy. Oh, I love that so freaking much. And once future plans are made, we release our attachment to them. Sometimes it helps to write down our plans for the future and put them away, out of sight and out of mind. So this really inspired me. This chapter really inspired me. I went into it thinking like, oh my gosh, like, is this gonna make me sad? Thinking about loss of love. Was it gonna make me less hopeful? And truthfully, I'm happy that I read this chapter when I did, because it's just a reminder, and I love to have reminders all the time that, you know, live life now. Be here in the present. Be happy with what you have right now. Be as loving as you can to the people that you have around you right now. Enjoy life, you know, because it's not ever guaranteed. And I just feel like you just can't let the now slip away from you, because there is no promises. And it reminded me that it's okay, because sometimes I feel guilty that I do place so much energy into my present, because sometimes I just think like, you know, should I be doing more for my future? Like, I do more for my future when I can, but also I don't put too much stock into it, because it's just like, well, if I'm trying to put all of my eggs in the basket for the future, sometimes that takes up what I have right now, and it's just like, then I'm not even able to work towards what I want because I'm so much into the future. So I really love reminders like that, and I think I'm going to just hold that super close to the chest, that it's like, it's okay to make goals, it's okay to make intentions, but I think that living in the now as happy as I can and connecting with as many people as I can authentically in this moment, and living as many of my dreams as I can right now, and really investing my all into that right now, is what is going to create a beautiful future for me. And it's okay to plan, and it's okay to be aware that the future is coming, hopefully. But it's good to be here now and loving now, and just giving your all to the present when you can. You know, it's not always possible to always be in the present, but, you know, I'm trying every day to invest more into the now, and as a result of it, I've been having such a really great year, and I've been able to like produce a lot of things and create a lot of things and be super happy, because it's all about what you make it right now. Like, it's all about taking what you have right now and using it to do whatever it is that is important to you, that you love. So hope you guys like this. If you guys want to finish out this book with me, make sure to go ahead and subscribe to this channel, become a reoccurring cutie. Give this video a thumbs up if you made it to the end. Put a red heart down at the in the comments for me. Check out my description if you guys want to subscribe to my Patreon. You can subscribe to my Patreon for as low as $3, as high as $15, and you guys can see what other things that I produce creatively. And also just support the channel, because the more money that I make not having to take myself away from creative ventures, the more I can create. So if that's important to you, here I also have Be My Lover merch. You can also stream my project. That's another way to support me. All of that stuff is in the description. I'll see you guys later.